Well, hello again, friends and fans. Raptor here. Welcome back to What the Deck for Wargame Red Dragon. Good to have you here as we build our first basic deck in the game. I'm going to go ahead and show you everything you need to know in making a deck here in Wargame Red Dragon, and then eventually going to fight the computer so I can put it on easy and show you a play-by-play on kind of how to work your units and explain exactly why we brought certain things to the battlefield and what we're going to do with them. So, for starters, we've named it What the Deck Basic. We have a US deck, and I just want to make it clear again that any unit in this game or in this video is subject to change at any time. So anything that you see price-wise or statistic-wise is subject to change. So always check the armory and always check your dates to make decks rather to make sure they're up to date, because updates in this game can bring about change. For instance, an accuracy of an ATGM could change for the better or for the worse, and it may make you want to reconsider putting it in your deck or not. So for the Americans and for destruction, we're going to basically make a basic deck here, and we'll start, as I usually do, at the very top with logistics. We've gone over everything so far, and if you haven't seen those videos, make sure to go back and start from the beginning at the start of the What the Deck series. Again, if you like this, please tell a friend, and if you learned something, please do the same. I'm going to start then by clicking on logistics, and a good rule of thumb, especially for you newbies, is to always include a fob. Double click on that to add it to your deck. It's a 75-point thing, and it's not displayed here as it's just kind of an external unit. It's basically, it's really the only building you can place. It's not mobile, and it has all your supply in it. As you can see, their supply is 16,000 liters. And actually, I just want to see something here. Oh, wow. So since this has been updated, it looks like vehicles say supply, 2,500 liters rather than autonomy. That is fantastic. There has been some real big updates to that. There you go. In previous videos, you'll see me talk about autonomy for how much these vehicles can hold. But before we go on to supply, we're going to go on to something more important, which is the command vehicles. So anyway, for basic setup, we're going to choose the 100-point command vehicle. And the reason we're doing that is because it's very affordable, and it allows us to basically make or call out, let's see, 7 of them for 100 points. A very good deck for destruction or conquest has a plentiful amount of M151A1s. Now, keep in mind this unit is extremely easily destroyed. In fact, it's vulnerable to anything, any type of gun, so it'll be quickly taken out. In addition to that, let's also include some TACCOM, some Marines, command infantry, command Marines more specifically. You can see the radium in there with the M240, and they don't have any anti-tank weapon on them at the moment either, so we'll go ahead and put them in as well. The M998 Humvee, we'll take that as well. Now, as you can see up here, cost 2, cost 3 activation points are being spent on these units, giving us a total of 5 points spent so far. Different types of decks, and we'll go on to that later, do require different activation points, but for now we're going to kind of ignore that and keep it simple. It's probably best not to have more than 4 units in this deck to start with, so we have our FOB, which is great for supporting artillery, our command, which is great for staying behind and in cover, and our TACCOM, which is good for areas that you think will become probably contested but won't be bombed to hell, as the TACCOM can take cover in buildings. Additionally, we're probably going to want the M35 here. We get 13 of these at 10 points each, so plenty of that to support infantry. Okay, coming up next, infantry. We're going to want some basic infantry here. This is usually the order I like to put things into, by the way, when it comes to creating my decks. I'm going to put the basic riflemen in here in the M113A1. I'm going to go ahead and buy a hardened group of that. Now, the reason we're buying hardened here is because they may have fewer in numbers, but versus the trained, they have 16% accuracy, and you can kind of see the differences between these two, but there are differences, and this is where ranking really comes to be important. It's not so important in logistics, but it is very important every other category. So we'll go ahead and start with some Rifleman 90. We'll go ahead and buy ourselves some SMAW as well, which also come with an amphibious transport. They're very good at taking out medium, light, heavy units, any real type of unit from 875 with extreme accuracy, 65%, pretty damn good. We're going to call out a veteran unit of that because it's not very often we're going to use them, and if we are going to use them, we want to make sure they kill a tank right away so that way it can't escape. We're also going to include, somewhat similar to the SMAW, is the LAAD Stinger in the same terms of it being used for very rare occasions or very rare occurrence that you'll probably use it, or much more rare than infantry, basic infantry, but we want it to have that increased accuracy that the hardened gives us. Alright, next we're going to want to select something that some people may not want or some people may want. I usually bring the Marines as a tougher fighting force and more of your most elite infantry. We'll go ahead and put the Marines in the LTV P7A1. We'll buy a veteran group of those, 24% accuracy. This is giving us a more infantry-focused deck, but in Wargame Red Dragon, infantry is extremely important. Moving on then to support, we'll grab ourselves some mortars to start with, preferably the M106A2. 4 of those hardened, so we can bring in some smoke if needed. We're also going to bring in an Avenger, which again is our close-range air support, and it can stay very close to our transports or even lead the way. We're going to buy these hardened as well, so that way they can always hit their target. Again, I'm buying these greater veterancy units not really because of anything other than them hitting their target more frequently. We also do want some chaparrals. I'd say some M48A1s would be good, hardened again. And we're also probably going to want something like the Hawk. We'll call out the greatest of the Hawks, the 90 point, and we will not call out any artillery for this deck so far. No real specific reason, just the way I'm making it for now. Coming up next, we want tanks. We're definitely going to include the M1IP or the M11P. Of course, it's the IP, but you know, habits are hard to break sometimes. So we'll call out 14 of those at 90 points each. And we'll also call out the, let's see, the M60 Era, which is it's a good cross between the AOS and the Era. I'm sorry, the Abrams, yes. So this is a very good choice. We'll have it call out 9 of those. Next up, very important, Recon. I'm definitely going to want some of these Kiowa WRs, which have Hellfires on them, and they're extremely accurate for 100 points each. Unfortunately, we can only have trained of those, which means an 8% boost to accuracy. So we'll go ahead and buy one of those. We're also going to want to buy ourselves some Navy SEALs in a helicopter, so that way we can get behind enemy lines earlier or faster. And if there's ever a gap in enemy defenses, that's when we're going to use it. And also, we're going to buy ourselves a AH-64 longbow, just to give it a try and just to see exactly how it works, and also some regular old Rangers in a Humvee for speed. We'll go ahead and put them veteran as well, as I'm not going to be using them as much, or at least I hope I won't be using them as much, because I hope they're not going to get killed or anything. For vehicles, support vehicles, we want, more importantly, ATGMs here than anything else, and actually the LAV FSV is not too bad against enemy tanks as well, especially if they're lighter enemy tanks. Anything Red Dragon wise will probably be crushed quickly by a 25mm cannon, hopefully anyway. Alright, let's go ahead and choose our weapons here. Let's go ahead and bring out the LAV-AT just to show it off a little bit. And we'll bring out the US as well, 70% accuracy on that for a TOW 2, very good. And we'll also bring out the, it even carries more. And we'll also bring out the Combat. It is a 45mm, 180. Wow, that's mean girl. All right. Now, when we get to the end of this deck, by the way, there may be extra points to spend, and that's when it's kind of good to go back and add to where you think weaknesses are. That's a very good way of making your decks. Let's go ahead and include the AH-1S Cobra, and we'll put that on hardened for 8 extra points. We'll also include the Apache, which really from European escalation has been a no-no for 140 points. I mean, there are more expensive aircraft, but I've never really had success using it, but I'm going to try to change that today. Let's also put the Little Bird with the grenade launchers on it as well, faster than the Heavy Hog, but more, I believe it's faster, but it doesn't carry more shells. It does 260. We'll also call out an OH-56, or 58 rather, to deal with enemy helicopters if we engage them. 7 of those trained. Alright, more importantly, the aircraft here. We definitely want to start with some seed. We're going to start with the Raven here, just for big, heavy emplacements. And we're going to grab the Prowler for medium emplacements. Probably, it's a cheaper one, but that's alright, more affordable, not cheap. Let's also grab ourselves some Eagles. We're going to definitely want those against enemy aircraft. And also a regular Eagle if we can get it as well. It's going to be really strong. Alright, we now have 4 points we can spend, but unfortunately cost of the final aircraft is 5. So we're going to go back and see where our weaknesses is. We'll go ahead and buy ourselves some anti-artillery, or I could show off the greatness of the Up and Etcha, which is the ATA CMS, which is a cluster munition launcher, and holy crap, that range, wow. Alright, dispersion is very tight on this. We'll go ahead and buy one of these then to see. As you can see, we didn't spend all of our points, 59 out of 60, and there's nowhere else we can spend points. Keep in mind, we're also going to only do ground for this start, so I won't necessarily need to build a naval deck just yet. But since Navy is so important to the game, we will eventually get to that point. But we're going to teach you on the ground first, and then we'll go into naval, especially since naval is subject to change as well. A lot of big changes to be had there. So let's go ahead and get ourselves into a game. So we'll go ahead and go, well, actually not back just yet. We'll go back to the armory just to kind of look over some of our purchases. I just wanted to see what was in logistics, and that looks great. We'll put things into the naval tab a little later, and also keep in mind you can make changes at any time that you're not in a game. So if you're not happy with it, you can always modify it later. This does not mimic any other deck that I have. I just made this off the cusp, somewhat to experiment, and somewhat tried and true methods. So yeah, anyway, we'll get into that then. We'll join ourselves a game against the computer, and let's go ahead and see what we've got here. We'll go ahead and go into a skirmish lobby, and let's do a small map. Let's do Nuclear Winter's Coming. I believe that's not one I've played on yet. So we'll go ahead and grab our What the Deck basic deck that we've just made, and we'll make the computer medium. We can actually play against one of our own decks, but I don't want it to be a... Well, Soviet Battle Group sounds fine to me. Armored. Oh, wow, I didn't... Oh, this could be more perfect than we had ever dreamed with all the ATGMs we bought. We'll put the computer on medium. I think I can beat a medium computer, no problem. So we'll go ahead and get started here then. Let's see. Let's start with... let's do the typical... Well, we'll do 15 minutes since the video is running a little long. And this is just for demonstration, so it really doesn't matter. Hopefully I don't get my ass beat by the computer. All right, we'll go ahead and launch here. So basic tips for starting. If you have helicopters out, you're going to want to put them over the trees, as you see here. We're going to, well, before we get into that, I should just show you the map. We've got a nice river down the center, and we've got a lot of towns on either side, so helicopters are going to be important here. A lot of bridges as well, which means that we can cross with ease with high-speed units or amphibious units as well. So what we're going to do is, I do want to take the Recon chopper and pop him up on top of the, take the Kiwa and put him up on top of the trees right away. As you can see, he's already on top of the trees there. You can kind of see him hovering in the air. So he won't have to take off from the ground, which gives him a nice extra boost. A very good day one tip for any of you. Also, the same goes for if you have infantry like that, but no need there. So we have a huge area to hide here in Echo, so we're going to put our command as far away from the battle or possible battle as we can. Keep in mind the enemy could attack here by crossing the bridge, or they could land troops here and sneak all the way down from our left and also get into the side of us. So to prevent stuff like that, you may want to leave some stingers behind, or an Avenger or a Chaparral, but I'm going to leave an Avenger behind. We're going to play this as if we're just playing against an actual opponent, but the computer, I guarantee you, will react much differently. And of course, since it's the computer, you know he's going to cheat, so he already knows where all of our units are going to be anyway. So just to deal with the amount of tanks we might encounter, we'll have to bring out some aircraft as well, but we'll get into that in just a second. First, we want to think of what commands do we want to take. Bravo would be great for assisting us in taking more of the right side, and Hotel and Foxtrot are probably going to be a big battle zone right between here for us versus the Soviet armored group. So what we're going to want to do is we're probably not going to want to bring up a command right away to capture hotel after we push the enemy out of there. Yeah, I'm being brazen about it. But we'll bring a command here, and we're not going to spend all of our points on commands, but just enough to get us started. We'll have Echo and Foxtrot for income, plus Bravo for income as well. That'll give us a total of, once everything has been captured, at least between these 3 points, a total of 8 income once everything's locked down. Keep in mind this is a land-only spawn, as you can see right there. So we'll only be able to bring out land units on this side. This also, by the way, does include helicopters. So don't be fearful that if you see the air marker that it's only aircraft and only helicopters. Helicopters can be called out anywhere land units can be called out as well. Also, they can't be called out where naval units are. So just basically think of aircraft, or helicopters rather, as flying tanks. Alright, so we've got these 2 units ready, and they're going to go ahead and capture on the left side. We will want to bring up some recons, so that way they can spot any enemy units. So we're going to have this Humvee go to the right, somewhere over here in this facility, to keep an eye out for anything approaching Bravo from the far left. And we'll bring out one more Kiowa or Kiowa to scout on the right side, somewhere over here preferably. Again, if I was the enemy, I would land troops right here somewhere along here, sneak all the way in. There's a very nice area to jump here. Infantry can go from here to here between these 2 hedgerows and all the way into where a command could possibly be hidden. So you can see they can easily, as infantry, you kind of want to look for routes such as that. And as placing your commands too, you also want to be aware of it. So they could possibly come that way, or they could come all the way around and ambush the spawn point as well, which you may have seen in some of those other videos. So anyway, enough blabble. Let's try to get things out as fast as possible. We are going to deal with some Soviet tanks, so we're probably going to want some good tanks of our own, which is going to be the M11P Abrams. Again, we can't really go tank v tank with the Soviets, so we're going to bring out some of our good tanks and also some of our best ATGMs to try to get them to be a little fearful of us. We're also going to want some AA out, a 90-point M727 IHawk, and we'll also call out 2 trucks to support that. So we should have anti-air on the left side, we should have some infantry up, and we should have some tanks ready. I went a little tank heavy, but that's because we do know that the enemy has a tank deck, so there's not as much fear for enemy infantry. So let's go ahead and launch battle here, and we'll go ahead and get started. We'll move our Avengers up. We're going to quick move. I have this as a hotkey to Bravo with these units. We're going to leave our 1 command behind, and we're going to move all these units up. So by hitting quick move, these units are going to stick to these major roads, which could be an easily ambushed position. We're also going to move that Kiowa up as well for Recon. Probably best to move your Recon first, so keep that in mind when you're playing. We're going to put our command here in a hidden spot. We're going to put him all the way to the left. Good escape route if he does get ambushed too, to the left, if there's trouble. Keep the M35 cargos near the Hawk. And we'll put the Hawk somewhere in the middle of the forest here, well, closer to the edge, so that way he can engage targets. We're going to actually hit move fast, so that way he moves fast there, and the cargo truck should get off the road. Alright, our Humvee's moving up to provide recon for us. Enemy tanks should be here at some point, I would expect, or at least that's what you would expect in a regular game. In the meantime, the Kiowa, or the Kiowa, has reached its position over here for reconning Bravo. Seems safe. No enemy aircraft, no enemy tanks, no enemy nothing. MI2 is moving up from the enemy. He's doing the same thing we are with our Kiowa over here, except he's unarmed, and we do have Hellfires, which is useless against helicopters like that. But our Humvee has started to see BMP-1s. Those BMP-1s do have ATGMs. The MT-LPBV only has a machine gun on it, but that's armed with infantry as well. The MI2 will not move any closer, and we'll move our Hawk up as well now to support those units a little bit better. Kiowa here getting ready to fire at the BMP, and oh, looks like rockets are firing. Looks like the enemy did see where our convoy stopped for the Rangers, and the Rangers are knocked out. T-80B is now moving on the main route. T-80B is going to be hit by those Kiowa rockets. Oh, an equal exchange. 30 points on that recon group, and the Humvee that was destroyed. We should probably put our command in a better spot here. Alright, so we do have Biryusas coming up. These are radar-guided cannon, 23mm. They're good for taking out enemy aircraft. Let's go ahead and go to our air part. Seed aircraft are good for taking out those kind of radar-based things. Don't want to spend the points on it, though. It's not as dangerous as something else. So rather than sending out the tows and getting those all exposed... Ooh, Su-24s are coming in. Let's go ahead and stop them. They have seed missiles as well. Oh, did you see that? They... What the hell? I totally thought I just turned that off. Okay, so their missiles bobbed around, but apparently they were able to whatever. Anyway, we're going to do the same to the enemy that they just did to us. Unfortunately, a 90-point loss on that, but 2 hits from the Prowler, and he can go home safe. ITW was hit there, and so our Abrams are going to come around. Kiowa's out of ammo, but the M11Ps can go ahead and flank these Soviets, no problem. And we're going to bring in a... and we don't have any bombers, so we will bring in our favorite, the longbow. My new favorite, of course, because the situation says it needs to be. So we have that MI2 still crawling around. I should have brought up some shoulder-launched stingers, but sometimes you just can't get that. And again, I was just putting the Avenger over there as an example to kind of show you that you can that you need to be prepared for enemy ambushes. Meanwhile, one of the US's was killed. Let's hopefully we... Oh, whoa, 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 that's too close range. He's going to die there. So unfortunately... the only thing TOW is not good at is close range like that. So those tanks may come up behind our Abrams, but you can bet our longbow is going to find those tanks in just a minute and eradicate them. We'll move our Avengers up to a safe position, so if those T-55s advance, they can't see them in the woods. T-55s are now stuck between a rock and a hard place as they are coming up behind Abrams, and they're also going to face the longbow in just a couple of seconds. You know, see the... M11Ps firing, M1IPs firing. Longbow should be within range. He cannot see some of those units because they're behind a hedgerow, and just watch the longbow just murder. You will want to tell your units sometimes to stop or to start engaging so they don't get too close to the enemy like that. That's a little danger close, and again, he can't see because of the hedgerow or the row of trees that are blocking those tanks. Though he can engage units up here. We do have a couple of them coming down. BMPs now going to Delta. We'll go ahead and ambush them. And the M11Ps will go ahead and finish off the T-55s. No problem. Leading the enemy to 490 to 270 then. The enemy should be calling out an aircraft or something to deal with something like the longbow. Wouldn't need to do that if it was a grenade launcher or something like that. But let's try to get this infantry before they cross. We did not hit that target. I would rather them hit the ones crossing on the bridge. There we go. And the reason I told them to hit the ones on the bridge is because these ones here are more likely to have delivered troops. We do have a T-80B now burrowing down against us. I don't know how he hit us without us seeing him. But anyway, we'll burrow down with him. T-80B, great unit, but not against 6 Abrams. That was a bad plan there, Mr. Communist. Longbow is low on missiles. In fact, he's out now. One more hit there. Boom. Nice. You see 2 different points popping up. That's the transport being destroyed and the cost of the infantry inside it. We now have our Stingers up here, by the way. Could have unloaded those a little earlier just in case some more of those tanks were sneaking around. But for now, we'll put them in the town back here, which isn't the best position to be in. But now we have Shaturms coming up, which are heavy enemy ATGMs, and we definitely don't want those to engage us. So we're going to back up some of those tanks. We'll keep the ones that are damaged up front since they have less of a chance of escaping, and they can take a little bit of the hit. Hopefully they panic the Shaturm in return. In the meantime, it's time for the Apaches. Time to bring those up. We will lose an Abrams or 2. As you can see, they can take a real good frontal hit, but one more hit from the Shaturm. It's out of range too, by the way. And you can see one of the... Wow, okay, one of those was about to be destroyed. We'll tell the tanks to move up then. And if you move into the woods for a split second and they lose track of you, that will make the missile kind of fly off into space. There we go. We have a tank that's lost then from a direct hit. 50 points on that unit. Not the biggest gain in the world, but also not the biggest loss. These Kiowas are so nice. You see Strelas moving around. These you need to watch out for. Those will murder a helicopter. But the Kiowa will impede enemy movements like this if it goes unopposed. And we're getting so many kills just from enemy infantry also being in transports. That's why you want to unload before you get to the battle. Alright. On the right side, we do have a Strela kind of trying to be sneaky. And we're not going to fall for any of his stuff. So it's time for us to call out some eras because they're more affordable. And again, the more guns you have, you don't want just one tank to kill them all. This isn't Lord of the Barrels. No, no, no. You want multiple barrels by calling out the M60A1, because then you can have 2 tanks that have half a chance of hitting rather than 1 tank that has 40, or 2 tanks that have 40. Greater numbers can be better here when you're dealing with units that really can't even fire back. In fact, the Strela has no capability whatsoever of damaging ground units. Of course, unless we're talking about airland battle, where missile systems used to actually hit the back of like tanks and would kill them. Alright, so we have A-64s. Again, they can't fire at these transports here. These transports are in this city. It's going to be very hard. You saw for a split second that they could. But the real way to engage BMPs like that are in the city is don't fly over them. Enemy infantry could be in there. You just fly till you can point down the road and kind of see where they're parked. So as you see here, we went a little too far. But we're going to come right back. Hellfires are guided, actually. Even though we have no clear sight, according to the computer, it is still able to hit some of those targets. So we got a 15-point BMP there, and we were able to hit the enemy pretty good. We probably won't reach the point limit, but it is time for us to do some sort of an assault. So let's get some Marines ready. We will need 40 points of Marines. Looks like they've captured Charlie, so let's get up there and counter what they've got. The arrows are moving up, and they will move up with the Marines as soon as their transport arrives. And we'll also call up a group of Navy SEALs to do some groundwork in their twin Huey, which will make them arrive beforehand. As you see, the Apache did exactly what I didn't want it to do, and that's why sometimes you take losses due to derpiness. I told those Apaches to engage those BMPs, but I certainly didn't want them to get close to the motor Strelaki. The motor Strelaki from those buildings could have fired on the Apaches and completely destroyed them. Meanwhile, you can turn off weapon systems like this to destroy targets that are moving at you, like the MTLBV. You can use rocket pods to just simply destroy them, and they're not even really worth your time. We do have 70mm Hydras on this. We have 23 left, so let's use those to wipe out the motor Strelaki. The helicopters will have to level beforehand, and that's good enough on that. Let's use that 30mm now, get a little closer, and bring the pain. Mi-2s could be killed by those Stinger groups, so we'll go ahead and move them up. I'll just put them at the edge of the forest, and they'll automatically start firing when they arrive. Looks like the motor Strelaki is taking cover in the homes. And by the way, the best place for helicopters to take cover is on the edge of tree lines, just on the other side, rather, of open clearings like this are perfect places to bring in supplies. In fact, if we had supply helicopters, that's where I would bring those up for the Apaches, since the enemy's not putting up too much of a fight. The twin Hueys have arrived, and as you saw before, we have enemy Strelas on our right side, so we will not bring those up so close. So we'll just go ahead and get these guys out on the right side and see if we can put them here in this little tree line, and that way we can stop them. Looks like, speaking of stopping them, we've got another enemy unit on the move. Longbow is back and ready. He's been ready for a long time, trust me. We'll tell the Longbow to move up, and we'll kind of park him at the intersection. He'll either A, engage enemy units automatically as he sees them, or I can use the attack where he will pretty much stop and do the same thing. We have an enemy Mi-24P that's moved up as well. So we've got a lot of enemy aircraft to deal with. In fact, we're going for the Abrams, so we got to back up. Another one of those Abrams will probably die before we get back to that tree line, which is sad. Goodbye, Abrams. And the other one should make it due to a missile going haywire, which is usually the case. There you go. What? Raptor, you know nothing of this game. But this one will hit. Yeah, alright. So, gonna call out this Stinger group to try to take out that P then. That silly P. We need to get him back. In fact, we can fight him too with our Apaches. And it looks like our longbow actually flew into, as you see here, it crashed. So it somehow got shot down by enemy units. So probably not so good to just tell it to move fast over there, just to simply move. Looks like the Apache is going to... Oh, okay, the angle was too high. The Kiowa is taking a hit, so we want to get away. But 2 Apaches were able to take down that helicopter, no problem. BMPs will move up. We're going to just go ahead and move back and kind of create a come at me bro situation where we'll park over here, and any units they call out will just be killed. Hellfires are a fire and forget weapon. No, they are not. They're semi-active actually, so you actually still have to be facing the target, but you can kind of move like this while you're firing at them. Enemy LTBVs are on the move, and it looks like an enemy command's moving up, so this is a perfect time for an ambush and a perfect time for our attack. We have limited time now, so I'm just going to try to throw everything into the battle that we have. We're going to go ahead and bring out ravens and prowlers to the right side to see if we can get any seed points. It's a great way for basically free points. BMP 1K has probably seen our troops at the moment, and the Marines were easily able to deal with that. We have Strela in the back. Those are the Raven and Prowler cannot shoot at that, so that's going to have to get out of there. And the Strela, as you see, was taken down by the Kiowa. That was able to actually kill it before it was targeted. We have another enemy command or the enemy command from earlier. Oh, that was the enemy command from earlier. Oh, as you see, missiles flying up out of the woods. Time to get out of there because infrared missiles are flying at us, and Ravens and Prowlers are pretty good at getting away from those, but they're still vulnerable, and we see an enemy aircraft coming in as well. Time to fight him with our veteran Eagle. Go ahead and counter that. And we'll have our arrows move around. ATGM City, baby. Whoa. Whole town there, whole village is probably loaded with ATGMs. Look at that. ATGMs coming from left and right. That's why you wanted to bring up the Marines first. So my plan here, before we were starting to run out of time, was to bring up the Navy SEALs first, then the Marines, then the tanks. But sometimes you just got to kind of go for it. We could probably find an enemy command if we can get in there. If we can just enter... Oh, I was just trying to enter Romulan cloaking mode, which basically is you kind of leave the enemy's sight for a second and that missile kind of disappears. F-15 is going to have to get out of here. Infrared missiles are everywhere. So we'll go ahead and break him off. Good to call them back and then evac them. Enemy units here will be taken out by the Apache, which is down to 11 missiles. So plenty, plenty, plenty. BMP's done. Done. And it looks like there are a few more here. No troops in these. And they're hauling ass out of there. They see the missiles. Oh, never mind. There's no troops in those now. There was before. Stinger Cs have not engaged in anything yet. They will as soon as it comes close enough. And missiles away. There you go. At that kind of range, he better have hit. Abrams can defend themselves. They do have the 12.7 millimeter M2 Browning on top, aka the Fiddy Cal. And our enemy artillery is coming in as well. Probably going to be smoke. Oh no, they're trying to kill the cheap transports over there. So we'll bring up our Stinger and see if we can kill this Mi-24 before the end. Looks like the enemy computer is bringing up more of that armor. Looks like our Marines are able to get through though. ATGMs can't kill Marines, as much as the Soviets wish that was true. Alright, we're going to go ahead and engage these T-80Bs and this Mi-24. And we're going to bring a lot of hurt to the enemy right now. And we'll have our IPs get out of there. The Apaches are engaging at such a close range because they can't shoot over that tree line. And it looks like they're going for lower value targets. I wish it's sometimes better to tell the computer or your own vehicles manually to engage enemy targets like that. So that's it for now. That was a pretty good run with the deck. That's pretty much the basics. We'll go ahead and continue on with some more advanced techniques and some more training in the coming videos. So if you like what you saw, tell a friend. Thank you so much for supporting the Rat Pack and this fantastic game and series and this wonderful community. So until next time, bring that cornucopia of pain, and we'll see ya. Bye. Password, Pimp Hand Strong.